Radio. Okay, hey, we were studying about laziness versus hard work last week. We didn't get through it all. We got to chapter 22 and verse 13, which is a very interesting passage. And it's one that the sluggard, don't you love saying that word, the sluggard? Who aspires to be a sluggard, you know? But it's just what an atrocious word. The sluggard says, "There's a lion outside," okay, or "I'll be murdered in the streets." And so we were looking at these. It was an absurd excuse for going outside, an absurd excuse for going to work. And I believe we looked at some popular excuses for why people won't work. Do you remember a couple of them that we talked about? What would you say is the number one excuse people will use to get out of work? Number one. What do you think's the number one? What's that? Oh, I'm just lazy. You just admit it. I'm not coming to work. I'm lazy. Okay. How's that work with the boss? I'm just curious. Yeah, okay. There you go. Yeah, usually it ends up resulting in immediate unemployment. Okay, but what somebody else, what he says is just come straight out. I'm lazy. What's the number one excuse people use for trying to get out of work? Yes. Pays off now? Okay. Somebody said something over here. I think I would agree with that, but I may be wrong, and I'm sure there are other ones, but it seems like I just don't feel good. I'm sick. And so, they use that as an excuse as to why not to go to work. Has anyone used this for an excuse that you would call your boss and say, "Look, there's a lion out in the street. I can't come to work. I might get eaten up." Did that work okay for you? Not very well? Okay. I'm calling in well. How does that work out with the boss? I'm just curious. Do you have well days? Yeah, okay. I'm just wondering. Personal health day. Mm-hmm. All right. Somebody else. What is the excuse that you would use for getting out of work? Cars broke down. Okay, there's another one. I'm sick. My kids are sick. Use the kids, right? Huh? I got to tell you, this was funny. No, I can't tell you that. I just can't tell you. But it is funny. But I can't tell you. No. Doctor's appointment, maybe associated with a sick. I can't come. I got a doctor's appointment. We're going to what? Bring in the slip. Yeah, you have to bring in the slip. If you're off, I'm sick. Bring in the slip. You don't get a slip. Yeah, you'll get another one. You get a pink slip. No doctor's slip, you get a pink slip. Yeah. And I tell you need to come up with different excuses. You got to get creative. This guy got creative. There's a lion in the street, Hey, the crime rate is high. I could get murdered coming to work. I think I better stay at home. Oh, hey, now wait a minute. Alaska's got their own. Yeah, there's a brown bear. There's a grizzly in the street. Yes. I've got an excuse. There's a moose. Yes. A moose loses. My excuse. So, but you know what? Even in Alaska, see, that's the thing. When you choose to live in Alaska and there are moose, that's no excuse. Now, if there was a moose down here, now that might be something. But up there, it's like, so what? There are 3 in my yard too, but I made it to work. Because when you get in that environment, it now becomes not so much an excuse. But the grizzly bear, I'm going with. I'm just afraid of bears. Matter of fact, just us talking about it, I'll probably dream about them tonight. Yeah, well, and see, that's the thing. What was that noise? Sounded like somebody snorting. A bear? So, so my stepdad is down in Brownsville, Texas. All right? And they got like 4 inches of snow in Brownsville, Texas. It shut everything down. You get 4 inches of snow in Alaska, it's just a typical July weekend, okay? So, I mean, it's no big deal. So, yeah, exactly. So, anyhow, excuses. They're like elbows. Everybody's got one, and they're all different. And the thing is, you're just making excuses because we're lazy. We know when the excuse is lazy, right? And of course, the proverb writer uses absurdity here to prove the point. The length that a lazy person will go to not work, and that's their excuse. And I used ones. I think I shared one of them with you last week. No, I'll wait. We'll use this in this next verse because chapter 26. See, this is the thing about the sluggard. If they would just use all their energy for work and creativity for work instead of getting out of work, they'd probably get a lot done. But in chapter 26, where is it? Verse 16. The sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who answer discreetly. So let me ask you a question. How is it that the sluggard, the lazy person, how are they wise in their own eyes? In what way? Think about it. It really makes sense, especially if you're a sluggard. Yeah, they think this, man, I got them, you know. There's a moose on the loose, and that's my excuse, you know. So I love that. I'm going to just keep that one. I can write it in my margin in my Bible. But yeah, they really think that their excuse is going to do it. Like me. Did anybody remember my excuse when I was younger why I didn't shovel my sidewalk? It'll melt. I thought that was just real extreme wisdom. Why are you working yourself to death? You know this stuff's going to melt. There is. And there's some things that are just lazy. I was lazy. I'm admitting it now. I'm just telling you, I was just lazy. And I thought I was really a smart guy, you know. All these people out here working like crazy. Give it time. It'll melt. Well, it will. But in between time, remember one thing we said about the lazy person too. What kind of quality of life do they have? Not so good. Why? Because their path is filled with thorns. Their sidewalk is full of snow. They can't get in and out of their driveway because it's all snowed in. You know, I mean, they then have a lower quality of life. But we think we're wise. You know, we're smart. Now, where's my wife? She's not here. Good. I can talk about her because she thinks I'm lazy. See, and truth is, she's probably right most of the time. That's not my wife. What are you looking at him for? All right. So anyhow, for instance, something needs to be fixed in the house. All right? Guys, be with me on this one, all right? All of you guys? So that's the problem. It's not working. So she says, you know, are you going to fix this? And I said, I need to think about it first. Got to ponder it. You got to have a plan. You got to engineer it in your mind. And while I'm doing that, she thinks I'm, you know, skirting out of work by doing it. You know, and the fact of the matter is, we can use that, can't we, guys? Well, you know, I've not fixed it yet because, you know, I've got to engineer how that's going to happen, and let me see if they got that part, and let me see if I can get blah, 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 blah. Some of that could be true, or some of that could be we're being wise in our own eyes kind of thing, and using it as an excuse, right? Am I right? But ladies, really, there is a bona fide side of this where you do need to plan it, because if you don't, what happens, guys? 20 trips to the hardware store, which is a typical plumbing job. Yeah, and in the Bible, Proverbs specifically talks about when you hastily enter into a job, what can happen? It becomes a bigger job, you know, and you mess it up. Haste makes waste, so to speak. But anyhow, sometimes the sluggard or the lazy person is wise in their own eyes. If you back up one verse, this is amazing to show the extent of how lazy this person is. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish, and he's too lazy to even bring it back to his mouth. Let me tell you, that's some kind of lazy right there, right? That's some kind of lazy. You can't even get it back over to your mouth, okay? All right, chapter 10 of Proverbs, verse 26. Chapter 10 and verse 26. I'm in 11, wrong chapter. And verse 26. All right, now this is an interesting one, okay? And I want to get your guys' interpretation for this. As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is a sluggard to those who send him. Okay, so this is a comparison. So I guess the first thing we got to understand is, how does vinegar feel on the teeth and smoke in your eyes? It doesn't. And smoke to the eyes? Irritating, yeah. It's an annoyance. It's an irritation. Huh? Is that the vinegar and the smoke, or is it something completely different? It's in your eyes. What is? Well, that's what it says. As vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Now, could you just sing a little more for that? No, okay. So those are annoyances and irritations. And so how is it that is compared to the sluggard to those who send him? How is that a comparison, do you think? Yeah. Okay, and how will they irritate them? How's that going to be an irritation if I send a sluggard, which there are none here, so there's an imaginary sluggard. Hey, go do this for me. How's that going to be like smoke in my eyes, vinegar in my teeth? Uh-huh. Oh, okay. 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 Yeah. Some things can't be helped. Okay, so I guess a lot would depend on how you're sending them, right? So like maybe you send him or her to do a job, and they send him back because they didn't get the job done. Imagine if a mail, postal worker was a sluggard, and you give them a letter, go mail it. Well, it never gets there. So what an irritation, right? Or if you ask a sluggard to go change the oil in your car, and they don't get it done. What an irritation. Why don't you get that done? There was a lion out. No, I like this better. We're going to change the translation. There was a moose loose. I love that. There's a moose. I couldn't go outside. And oh, man, you didn't get my oil changed? What an irritation. I mean, it didn't kill you or anything, but it's an irritation, right? So if you're depending on this person to get the job done, they're going to be sent back to you. They're not going to get the job done or whatever. It's just going to be a total irritation. Exactly. So just like vinegar to the teeth. I've never had a problem with vinegar on my teeth. Maybe they had bad teeth back then. If you have bad teeth, it hurts or something. Anybody have a problem with vinegar on their teeth? It had to be a teeth thing back then, because they probably didn't have regular dental checkups and stuff. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to learn something from the ant. The ant. Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6, I think, through 9 or something. Okay, maybe 10, maybe 11. All right, and this is Solomon who's saying to the lazy person, learn from the ant, okay? He says, go to the ant in verse 6, in chapter 6, in verse 6. Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways, and be wise. It has no commander, no one to tell it what to do, no overseer, no ruler. In other words, what is Solomon saying? This ant is self-motivated, buddy, all right? No one has to tell him what to do. He's got initiative, okay? And yet it stores its provision in the summer and gathers its food at harvest. Verse 9, how long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you get up from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a bandit, and scarcity like an armed man. So, what is it that you think the lazy person can learn here from the ant? What's the lazy person going to learn from the ant? Initiative? Yeah. Initiative. Persistence? Exactly. Stay with it. What else? Determination? Exactly. Yeah. Doing the right thing at the right time, and all those words we use like initiative and so on. What's even motivation? What's the ant's motivation to do the right thing in the right time? Be prepared for later. If you don't work now, you're going to go hungry later. That's why we do the right thing at the right time. That's why we have the initiative. I don't need somebody to tell me. I think Jack was the one talked about using, in the old days, you have to cut wood for your heat. Now, if you're freezing in the wintertime, that's not time to think about cutting wood, is it? Do the right thing at the right time, because if I don't do my due diligence, I'm going to freeze to death. Of course, today, don't say that. Stop. That's for later. Okay, so do the right thing at the right time. I'm motivated. The ant doesn't need to be told this. It knows. Now, is there maybe a slight insult to the lazy person? I mean, because you look at the ant. How big is the ant brain? Big as a speck, right? And here you are, a human. This ant's smarter than you. I mean, look to the ant and be wise. At least be as smart as an ant, lazy person. So yeah, what else can the lazy person? So we've looked at the provision and stuff here, but there's something else I think we can learn from the ant here. Or maybe this is just straight up from Solomon. What is he telling the lazy person here? Yeah, no matter how small you are, you can do it. I like that. They are. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. What was that? Speaking of songs about an ant and a rubber tree plant, something like that, right? Ant can't move, a rubber tree plant. Have you ever heard that one, Jackie? No way. Really? Don, how about you? Oh, you have? Oh, okay. Oh, that's true. That's true. I forgot about it on there. But we were waiting for you, Bob. But that would be so much better. Yeah, something about an ant and a rubber tree plant. And that's right. They are cool to watch. But what's he say about sleep, though? What's he say about sleep? yum, 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 right?
Scarcity will attack you like an armed robber.
It'll be like an armed man. You're gonna be robbed, dude. You're gonna be robbed, just like you were being robbed. Now, I don't want to meddle too much here, but this sleep thing, you could get meddling, couldn't you? I don't know y'all's sleep's habits, but I know when I went over 50, sleep became something that was a little overrated. I found out I didn't need near as much sleep as I did before. And but boy, I can remember the time when I really liked my sleep. Don't you say nothing. Don't you say nothing. You sit over there and be quiet, okay? All righty? Don't say nothing. All right? So, I don't know if any of you struggle with the sleep thing, but I have a pretty good suspicion that maybe some of you do. So Solomon, throughout Proverbs, speaks to the sleep thing, right? And, I think I used a saying that I heard a buddy of mine say a long time ago. He says, I'm not the least bit afraid of work. I can lay down right next to it and go to sleep anytime. Some of you will get that later. It's a southern wisdom. But anyhow, he talks a lot about sleep in chapter 10, verse 5. He who gathers crops in summer is a wise son, but he who sleeps during harvest is a disgraceful son. I mean, how lazy is that? It's bad enough if you wouldn't even go out and plant your crops, but then you have crops out there and you're too lazy to go and pick them, and they rot out there in the field. Chapter 20 and verse 13. Do not love sleep or you'll grow poor. Stay awake and you'll have food to spare. Chapter 23 and verse 21? For drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags. So, just as we talked about several weeks ago about eating too much, and Proverbs talks about eating too much, a topic that I think is probably one of the top 2 or 3 most acceptable sins is the overeating or gluttony. I think so also might be too much sleep. It's easy to do, and I think it changes in our life too. It's not that I sleep less because I have become more disciplined. I sleep less because I got old. I think it just came with the territory, But I know it's tough. It's tough, especially I have a granddaughter who she's like her granddaddy. She loves her sleep. Maddie just believes that if school could start at the crack of noon, I should say, she'd be good with that. She loves her sleep. Some people, we struggle with sleep. How do you overcome it? Anybody want to testify on how they overcome the struggle? Look at him back here. I'm putting him to sleep. Go ahead, stretch out there, bub. How much sleep do you guys need to get by on? Not a lot. You can get by without not much? All right, no, Jackson, he gets about 3 hours sleep a night. Yeah, you work midnights. We end up looking like ghouls after a while. Us midnight, I did midnights for years. How about anybody? Anybody want to share how many hours you can get by with okay? The doctors tell you, you got to have how many? Well, it depends how old you are, right? Who needs more sleep? Elementary school kids or high school kids? High school kids. Who starts school earlier? Elementary school kids or high school kids? Does that make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me either. Anyhow, that's another story. All right, well, nobody's going to share their... Okay, that's fine. What's that? Is that right? After they started doing all the studying about sleeping? Okay. Mm-hmm.
and should attend and grade, discipline, everything improved.
Oh, and just the biological fact, teenagers need more sleep. Their bodies need more sleep than toddlers do. That's just the truth. That has been found out. Okay, well, if nobody wants to share their own personal story like I did on sleep, then we'll move on. But one thing I was starting to get to, but I didn't start on because I want to talk about now, is welfare programs. Welfare programs. Do they encourage hard work, or do they encourage laziness? Why or why not? Somebody tell me, what do you think? Oh, you do? Okay.
Welfare program. I was on unemployment for a time, and in that time, it wasn't. It encouraged me to be lazy. Not that I was lazy because I did other things at the time, but I was put in a situation where that situation was paying me more than a job I would get.
Oh.
So,
Why bother, huh?
well, it wasn't so much why bother, but I would bother, and then I would get a job that was paying less than not.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do then?
Well, what did you? No, I don't.
I went and got a job under the table.
Uh-huh. Okay. But you stayed working. Okay. So, yes. Mm-hmm.
Try to make some money and add work to them, they'll take everything away from you, and then you'll be in worse shape. They kind of, some of the programs kind of provoke you to be lazy,
Mm-hmm.
encourage you to be lazy. They won't give you a little to help you while you provide work. You either take it all or take nothing.
Right. All right. Okay, so the system has been abused. Maybe there's not one size that fits all. Could be another thing. What else? Anybody else's thoughts on? Mm-hmm. So then if you start to speak to reformation of welfare, then you're probably not a compassionate human being then, right? Is that correct? See, that's the kind of thing that's the kind of thing we get into, isn't it? Because, in fact, I can tell you a story about a friend of mine that got laid off, and all of his unemployment insurance was used up, and still was not called back, and so they extended the unemployment insurance, and the fact of the matter is he was making more while he was laid off than it paid him to go and look for a new job, and so he continued to just do nothing. He said he admitted to me, this is making me really lazy because I really just why should I even bother? And a lot depends on the individual, a lot depends on the program, but anyhow, one size doesn't necessarily fit all. What did they do back in, say, Christ's time as far as welfare? I mean, can you care about people and still have some kind of accountability? How does that happen? On an institutional level, it's very difficult. So how did they deal with people who were lazy in Jesus' time, and how did they deal with people who had genuine, compassionate needs? How would they sort that out? Any thoughts? Well, let's just go back to the first century, okay? How in Jesus' time were compassionate needs taken care of. Who dealt with the feeding of the poor? Was it the government? It was the church, right? And the church knew their parishioners, right? And so, for instance, the Apostle Paul said, if a person will not work, they will not eat. The point is, I think that when we get on an institutional level and try to make one size fits all, then we lose that individual understanding of each person, because everybody's different. I don't know when the transition took place, but more and more, the church gave its responsibility to the state, and the state took over. And when you have a large institution, you're going to have issues with people who are going to. Somebody mentioned abusing the system. You'll have people who abuse the system, and how do you have checks on that and balances? And so, that's the thing. And I think when it's on a local level, you have a better opportunity to be able to check those who are just simply being lazy and not wanting to work. And so then my question is this, and this is a tough one. I've been dealing with this one for 31 years in full-time ministry, is how do you help the poor and not encourage laziness at the same time? Think about that one. And especially when kids are brought into the situation, right? There's kids involved. When I was in Panama City, this lady comes in and she's got a little baby in a little stroller, and oh my goodness, looked like that diaper hadn't been changed all day long, maybe more, and nasty bottle, and wanting some help with food and stuff, and of course we helped them. And then she gets into this car with these 3 other guys, and they're drinking out of a brown paper bag, And so, it gets really tough. They were using this lady and this little kid to try to get some stuff from the church, because they were lazy. But then how do you make sure that the kid's taken care of? Because they really don't have a whole lot of say in this, It gets very difficult. One of my sayings is to try to, if I'm going to make an error on the side of compassion and grace. But then sometimes you just need to flat say no. There was this guy, he came walking up to me. It wasn't when I was at New Song, it was at another church. And I was coming back from lunch, and he, perfectly capable guy, capable to work. He comes up to me and he says, hey, and he calls me boss. He said, hey, boss, let's just cut right to the chase, okay? He says, you got some money, I need it. Give me some money. He's talked to the wrong guy. Some people, I call it a culture of takers. They just are lazy. They don't want to work, and they think all Christians are suckers. They think they're suckers. And I said, pal, you just need to hit the road right now. I'm not. Don't tell me that. Then we had another little guy. I call it, his nickname was Shorty. Shortest guy I ever met. The guy was about that tall, and he was like 65 years old, and he wanted some help, but he would not take any help unless I let him rake the leaves or sweep the sidewalk or do something. And that was the neatest thing. And he worked. He did some stuff, and gave him. We had these bottles and cans. He'd take the bottles and cans or get a little help for food and whatnot. So it takes some real prayer and discernment because we are to help those who are in need. Okay? And yet there are those who will play the system, whether it's the state system, the church, however you're going to help people. There needs discernment. There needs to be a lot of prayer, because sometimes really innocent people are affected by what happens. Does that make sense? Any other thoughts? Any experiences since I kind of primed the pump on this issue? Because it's a highly debated issue. I know it is. Different people have different ideas. Sometimes folks are too hard too harsh, and sometimes some folks are too easy and can foster laziness. I'm not saying there's a simple answer. Not at all. I think that the narrower it is of the oversight, the better chance you're going to have for success. That's my thoughts. What do you guys think? Yeah, Kimmy. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a ton of stuff I want to say in that regard too. And let me just say it quickly this way. When poor people do get some help, you haven't done anything wrong, I don't think, necessarily. I need to put an asterisk on that and pick that up next week. But let me tell you where naivete can come in thinking. We used to get a lot of indigent people where I was at in Panama City. And I was brand new in the ministry, and this guy came in, and he said, I just need some money for food. And do you have any? And it just so happened I had an extra $20 bill, and I gave him a $20 bill. He was really happy. He went out the door, and I felt really good about myself. And Don came up. He's the lead pastor. He said, "Did you give that guy some money?" I said, "Yeah, it was a guy. He just needed some money. He needed some food, so I gave him $20." He said, "Tom, do you realize with $20 you could possibly put that guy in the hospital tonight?" So what are you talking about? He's going to take that $20. He's going to go buy the best bottle of whiskey he can get, and he's going to drink the whole thing right now. It's like, oh, I didn't do that. I didn't know that. And so we at New Song, we never give out cash whenever possible. Never. When we're helping people, if they need food, we go get them some food. If they need, clothes, we try to get them clothes. If they need their electric bill, we try to get them their electric bill, and so on. But of course, they can play that scam, because I'll take my cash that I would have paid my electric bill. You pay my electric bill, I'll take the cash and go get some booze. See what I'm saying? You guys didn't know all this stuff that takes place, right? We'll talk about it next week. All right, great. Thank you.